Farm with Nick. Thanks so much for joining me here again on Alma. And for what is a year later here on the Alma farm. So the last time I saw you on this build, it was in May. And I went ahead, kind of played through summer quite a bit, and then played through fall, and did a little bit in winter, here and there, and I'll show you what I did, but then we're right back into summer, and I'm actually harvesting some wheat in this front field right by the farm. So I've been up to a lot, but yeah, I just wanted to kind of give you an update of what I've been up to, and where I kind of got the farm a year later, as I'm probably, sad to say, but I'm going to close out this series on Alma, Missouri. So just kind of going to give you an update and overview of everything, and then also kind of talk about the farm in general, what I liked about the build, and equipment-wise, what I thought worked well on this build as well. So, alright, I am probably going to pause there. Maybe I'll drive it up to the road here. But yeah, this, if you have been watching the series, has been a grass field. And I've done bales on it quite a few times, and the last time, and kind of getting into the next year, I tilled it up and then planted wheat on it that following spring, and then now we're a year from there, so into summer here, ready to harvest it in August. So kind of cool. I'm just trying something a little bit different too. Kind of giving you a little, sneak peek of where I can get the farm if I just kind of play off camera, for a whole year too. So I think that's a neat idea and concept here. All right, so I'm gonna pause right there, but let me kind of just show you around and kind of explain what I've been up to here. Alright, so there's my wagons ready to go for the combine there. So you can see our corn crib is full. Let me jump into, there it is, the side by side here. Alright, and kind of tool around the farm here with this. So I still have my cattle over here. I have a new set of 50 heifers here in this front field, and then they're attached to this front barn here, and I really liked this barn. One thing is, it was nice to have another barn to kind of rotate all the animals through, and every season, I'd sell them or I'd move them over to the main barn, but I did like having this front pen right here. I thought that worked out really, really nice. So, and then you can see I had a bunch of bales over here, and there's the trailer, but I ended up using all of them, and the rest I kind of threw into the TMR fermenting silo. Alright, so let's go this way here. Alright, so I still have a bunch of my equipment here, kind of parked in here from spring, planting and everything. And then here's the main cattle barn. I have my little calf barn right here, which I did utilize, and then as those ones got older, I went ahead and moved those to the other barn that we just went through. And I did not put any calves back in here, but that's where I was keeping them, in there. And then the main milking barn here, I went out and maxed it out over the course of the gameplay year. So this pen is quite large. Now it's a little bit different than what they give you. So I redid this barn, and it's a modded version for milk. And then I extended the pen almost touching this field, and then extended it all the way to the road line, and then got special permission from the county to put it right alongside the road, and then got it on the opposite side of the tree line, and then wrapped that up to the house, as you can see. And then I actually added that main drive back in from FS22, which I'm really happy with, and I really liked having that access, you know, to get back around to the road here. So in the end, I'm really happy that I added this in. I used it a lot, and I know a lot of you are playing on the build, and I kind of, you know, liked doing all that in particular. That was really cool. Alright, so then this way, a lot of manure still. You can see I have the wheat field in there, but let me kind of just try out here. So this field I left as grass. Didn't change any of that. And then I also will show you, wow, like I did kind of try to expand the farm, and you can see money-wise, I kind of went into a routine of, with all the milk and being able to sell that dairy was kind of nice. It was able to like kind of fund a lot of the expansion here. So this backfield, I actually switched it to sunflowers. So let me kind of just get into the flight mode. I'll show you. So I have sunflowers here in this far backfield. So I did plant it, harvest it a couple times, but now it's sunflowers here. Pretty cool. And then this one, I still kept it as a grass field here. And then right here, I changed this to grass as well. So this is field 32. And if I just jump into the menu here, so I started with the main fields kind of just around here, 35, 32, 33, 31, 34. And then as, you know, I kind of expanded out, I bought these two north of the farm, so 26 and 25, and you can see just corn in here again from the last time I harvested it. And then I also expanded into 27 and then worked my way 17 and 16. And then I had the expansion video at the main farm, and I'll go over that during a second. But then I still had field 1. I bought field 3, and really kind of, you know, was planning on getting over to these two. And then I still had field 29 as well, and this is corn that I planted here. And then as I was trying to expand my reach and like go through the middle, I ended up purchasing field 21, and this is just because I'm getting a lot of the extra money from the dairy, and field 23, you know, so you could kind of drive up here and then make your way up to field 23. I kind of liked that idea. But yeah, kind of cool. So that's how far I got on this playthrough series of trying to expand, you know, and I was thinking, oh, I could buy field 20, you know, and it's 115, you know, yes, I could, but I didn't. All right, so let me hop back over to the side-by-side. There it is. All right, and we'll take off flight mode. All right, so my other thing I thought was really, really cool, and was like a side project, was to try to move that road through the middle of the map and to try to get it out there. So, like you have this, you know, it kind of, you know, ends into there, but then you have in the far back, you have that other field that also has the road off of the train tracks. So if I just drive through here, I'll show you where that is. And then I'll also take you out to like the farm expansion. But it was really kind of fun as you kind of got into the groove of, you know, this is where I'm going to get my profits from, and you could kind of start going from there. But otherwise, yeah, I mean, it does take time. So here are the train tracks, and then here is the pre-built road. You know, you can see my farm in the background. So this only goes so far, and then it ends. So I went ahead and then built, and, you know, it's a little bit, you know, kind of an unkept road, but it's there. Cleared out some of the tree line, but then this road goes all the way through, all the way to that pig farm, which I thought it was really cool. And I used it a couple times here and there, coming to these far back fields, which honestly, that was the way to go. So then this loops around, and then you're back to the nice, like, manicured road. Now, I didn't like do a road build on here per se. I just freehanded, as you could tell. It's only because that gravel texture is not available like it is here on the map. Like, you can't use that as part of the build. So in the end, like, I did place a row, but then I was like, oh, I'm just gonna freehand it. You know, how many times am I gonna come back here? And I did. But so that's where, like, that freehand just kind of came in handy. I just used that because then it matched the same texture. But if I zoom out, you know, you have this to get through around town. Then you have the middle road to get through, and then you have the back that goes all the way to that pig farm to get through. But I really like this. So something cool, something I wanted to show you, but I worked on that kind of in the fall through the winter months when there wasn't as much going on, and then kind of cleared that out. And then you can kind of loop around this way, and that takes you here, and then you could loop up to that field there. So pretty cool. I was really happy with that. And something a little bit different, but just wanted to show you what I was up to with there. Alright, so let's talk about the farm here. Alright, so a year later, how did I like the layout? How did I like the farm? All that good stuff. So I showed you the fields. The cattle I have maxed out, and I think there's a little bit over, and because of the placement of the fence line here, this main cattle area here, I think there's 525 cattle, if I'm not mistaken, in here. So quite a bit. And then once you get them going, like I said, that milk and the dairy coming through is very, very reliable, and that's a good chunk of change. And then you can kind of rely on that to get through and have some profits, you know, to do stuff with. So I really did like that. All right, let me move this out of the way. So let's talk about this farm. I'll take you to the other farm as well, and then maybe kind of chat about some of the equipment here before we end out the episode. So the first thing is this little drive that I'm on right now that I added back from the main build. So one really cool thing from FS22 is it had this extra little drive, and I wanted that back in my build. And this little loop here is on the original farm if you check it out on Google Maps. So it was really nice, and you can see what I just did, kind of looping around here. And then I kept those bales here a lot too, so it was really nice kind of having that little loop and turn around, especially for larger equipment. I really like that. And then I liked having the bales right here as a stacking place, you know, and I just put my tiller and bale trailer there for now. So I like that. I kept most of the other roads. I added this little road here, And then what I talked about, I added the front driveway. I liked adding that as well. One thing I didn't want to do is like build into this front field, and there was a couple different variations of putting like half huts and another barn right here, but in the end I just kind of liked the more compact look here. I loved having like this original pole barn here. I didn't want to switch that out. And then I liked having this extra barn up front, especially to have this as a cattle pasture. And then I liked how I kind of added the little side, backyard area here, the small workshop garage, and then I added these other two barns. And I really enjoyed playing with them. I thought there was enough storage for what I was doing. And then as I was expanding out, I started, just bringing equipment over here. And then that comes into the episode where I added in all of this to the starting farm. Now, did I get to this and play with it? No, I didn't. However, it is set up ready to go. So if I would have, kept going with this, which I could, but I think, this series is in a good place, and I'm ready to kind of move on a little bit. You had your cattle here, you had the sheep and goats here, which I didn't add anything, and they were profitable that whole time just off of the meadow grass. But you really had this huge expansion here and plenty of storage. You had this large workshop barn here. You had another large storage workshop. Then you had a couple smaller ones here and another cold storage here. And then instead of a house, because this was not my farm for living, this is like my secondary farm, I just put a nice little pole barn right there, a little more decorative too. And then you had, straw storage here. You had enough silo storage. I kept the horse barn, didn't change any of that. And then added a nice little pond here. So I'm really happy with this layout. I really like how it turned out. It was, something a little bit different, especially not having it as your main, residence. But I really like how this turned out. And if I was going to keep playing on it, absolutely, I would start buying equipment here. Probably have to take out more of a loan, because you know how it is. You start buying more equipment, and that $572,000 that I have right now is gone. So if I kind of come back to here, I could keep playing on this. Probably get up to $1 million. Especially with harvest here, and then expanding, with the cattle. And then really, because I've maxed out this main barn, the barn back there at the starting farm, that would be the next thing I would be doing, is adding a bunch of cattle in here. And then really, you have a very large dairy operation, which would be cool. All right, so let's talk about equipment. So I did something different on the series. So no auger wagons, no big semis like in Riverbend Springs, if you're watching that series. Went with the gravity wagons here, and I really liked these wagons. This is probably one of my favorite things to do and have, is to have the tandem wagons and to take them around. Now it's kind of funny, around where I am in real life, there are farmers that have these, smaller kind of wagons, and they just do that. But there are a handful of farmers that do the semis. So I liked, doing that just to have something a little bit different. Let's go check out some of the other equipment. I had my straw spreader, the same as my Riverbend. So didn't change anything there with putting their straw bedding in. And in here we had some mowing equipment. I had an AI baler. I liked having that, something a little bit different. And that was like mid-series that I changed to that. My tedder back there, the 7810, which I used on the Riverbend series. I had this other side equipment, which I really never got to. I had plans to use, as like a little forage harvester and pulling with the tractor. Never got to it. And then I had my mowers back here. Both of them I used and really liked. And then the big Kloss square baler. I really liked this one. And this was a new piece of equipment that I did not use in any of my other series. And then I had another round baler. This was not an AI baler, just the base game one. And then had the 3650 here. Some other little workshop trigger, seed trigger. And then over here, I had the Anderson forage or TMR mixer. And then I never got to it, but I saw, well, you saw, it was in one of my videos, this little John Deere combine. And I was meaning to get to it, and then just never did, but stay tuned, you might see that in another series. And then my slurry tank right here, I had my combine right here, which is out in the wheat field. And then I have my corn header over there that I've been using, and then this little harvester combine. And you might have saw it in, well, I did it in a couple episodes. It was kind of fun taking this out and getting my corn with that, so that was really cool. And then had my pickup over here, had my little camper, and then this was really fun. So I had my my round bale nuts in here, and then here was a really cool feature. You could actually put the chainsaw up there, so that was so cool. And I know a lot of you were asking me like, hey, how did you get that? But what a cool mod that you could actually store your chainsaw instead of just walking around with it all the time. But that was really, really neat. And then in our main pole barn, this was probably like one of the bigger workhorses, the 8R here. And then you might have seen one of these episodes. I did some roadside mowing, so I did some contract work. Have my bale trailer and used this a handful of times with manure and doing a little bit of lime. My spreader here and a couple more wagons over here. I had my seeder, a new planter to me, this John Deere, and this was really fun using this planter. And then I never got to it. I was actually going to use it for the road out back that I just showed you, that I connected in the middle of the map, but never actually got to using that. And in the end, it was just faster just to paint it on, but it would have been fun to do that. Alright, there's our dog. And then had all my, kind of some of my cheat mods kind of here tucked alongside. And this was really kind of convenient because this was off the main drag, having your fuel and then different little herbicide and other fill up stations here, right in the middle of the farm. So that worked really, really nicely. I like that a lot. And then I almost forgot my milk truck right here. So I really liked having this, and a little bit different than what I was using on Riverbend as well. So got a lot of use out of that. Alright, so that is my Alma series. 1 year later, kind of just a big old update of what I have been up to. So there you go. And keep going here on my wheat field. So Thank you so much for joining me here on this Alma series. Stay tuned for what is to come. If you've been checking out my other builds, you might kind of have an idea of what I might be up to, and kind of check those out, and that'll give you a hint as to where I am probably going to be moving next and building and working on my next playthrough series. One thing in particular, as I'm working and doing this, I'll hop into the build mode. So this is like the secondary cattle farm, as I always kind of thought of it. You have your main starting farm, which is way over here, which I built out, which was fun. And really, I played on this build a lot during FS 22, and I played on this almost exclusively before moving to the cattle farm, which I'm on now. But if you want to check out under my farm tour or farm build series, there is a build here on the pig farm. So if you have been playing on this pig farm, it's much smaller footprint. There is a build that I have done over there. So feel free to check that out, and then stay tuned for what is to come. There's your little hint at what is to come here for Alma. So if you are new to the channel and just finding me now through this video, I'd love to have you tag along, join the Farm with Nick community, watch this playthrough series. I think I'm up to, this is episode 21 now. So really played on this quite a bit. I really enjoyed this series. Feel free to check out my other playthroughs on Alma, and then also feel free to check out my other farm builds as I continue kind of playing around with different ideas and different designs and layouts here on FS 25. So I'm probably just gonna finish up this wheat field now. Kind of seems so different and strange from what I'm used to, especially with playing on this map quite a bit and then doing all the hay fields up here. But I think it's fun to kind of change it out. So thank you so much for joining me here 1 year later on Alma, Missouri. So thank you again for watching, and I hope to see you on the next one. Have a good one. Take care.